Hi, good evening, everyone. We are just going to start now. Guys, I hope a few of you have joined the previous sessions, wherein in the first session we covered about mostly about the define phase and the basics of Six Sigma. What is Six Sigma? And we also discussed about the types of data, which is discrete and continuous. In the second session, we touched upon some of the concepts of the analyze phase, wherein we touched upon brainstorming, we touched upon fishbone, and we also talked about SIPOC as well. So in this session, I got a request from a lot of you that you want to cover the measure phase, right? Most of you wants to go with the measure phase, and that's the reason I have kept this session for the measure phase only. So we will be talking about the measure phase of Six Sigma journey. But I would like to take this opportunity to ask you that whatever we have covered in the define phase, there was an exercise given to prepare a project charter in the last session. We take one example of project charter. I think it was Vineet, you who presented your project charter, if I'm not wrong. Was it you or somebody else? Okay. Yeah, Vineet has
Yeah,
mentioned that it was him. So Vineet presented one project charter, and that session was the second session we did. And that video is also there on YouTube. You can find that video, and you can get a good view of how a business project charter is being prepared. Vineet presented it, and we all gave him a feedback, and that's how we improvise it. So you can watch out that particular video also if you want to know how to make an effective project charter. So now coming back to this session, we will start with the measure phase. But if there's any question anybody has from the previous session, I can take it up. Guys, anything you want to ask? Okay, it seems there are no questions. So I will start with the measure phase. Guys, I would encourage you guys to ask me as much question as you can. So don't feel that this question could not be a good question. So feel free to ask question. My entire vision is to make you through to the entire Six Sigma journey and also help you in getting growth in your respective careers as well. So that in case if you want to switch jobs or if you want to get into a Six Sigma kind of a role, that I can also help you. So that is my entire motive. So let me just share my screen with all of you, and let me just see that what we have placed for today. Give me a minute. So guys, is my screen visible to all of you?
Yes.
Yes, sir. We can see.
Okay.
I can see.
It's visible.
Thank you so much. So guys, in the measure phase, the first and most important thing which we all should be aware of, and it's not only in the Six Sigma journey, but it is a very important concept which everybody must be aware of. Even you are doing a Six Sigma project, even if you're doing a project management, even if you are doing data analytics, anything that you're doing which is regards to problem solving, you should be aware of that, and that topic is called statistics. So we are going to touch base on the basic statistics as well today, because that's a part of measure phase and that's what we learn. So I'll make this session very interactive and we'll be asking questions from you. So guys, most of you have already covered it. Can you give a brief introduction about or brief understanding about the word statistics? What do you think the meaning of statistics can be? Nowadays, we hear a lot of data is being used. What is this statistics is all about? What do you think?
So it can be defined as a study behind that data, like what is the numeric representation of our data, how our data is flowing into our processes.
Okay. So basically, it is about collecting of data, collection of data.
Yes, yes.
It's about So guys, do you think is it only collection of data help us to come up to some meaningful insights, or we are also required to interpret it also? If we know how to interpret it also, is that also required or only collection is required?
Statistics is about not only collection of data, but to draw inferences and interpretation from that data.
Absolutely. To draw inferences. So basically, once we have the data, we'll kind of collect it, we'll interpret it, and so that we would be able to bring insights, so that we would be able to make meaningful discussions out of it. So what would you do if you're able to bring insights? What is that one thing you will be able to do effectively once you're able to get insights? So let's go step by step. You get a data, you start interpreting it, you start getting insights. What is that next thing that you'll be able to do effectively? A very simple question. Nothing in regards with Six Sigma.
Yeah,
What is
we
it?
get to know that. Yeah, we get to know whether that data is actually impacting us or not, whether we should work on that particular data or not.
We should work on that particular data. So you've already collected the data, you've already interpreted the results,
Mhm.
got some insights. For example, you've got some data, and from that data, you identified 15% of the people uh, would not be liking the product. Okay. 20% of your customers are not satisfied. 30% of your customer may not buy a product next month. Basis these insights, what is that one thing you will be able to do effectively?
We can take
Take judgment
decisions
for
for the
the
future.
action.
Sorry, I heard two or three voices together. Very echoey a bit.
Yeah,
We can
we
take
can take.
decision on that product.
We can take decisions on that. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. So statistics is all about collection, organization, interpretation of numerical data. The purpose are to understanding why, wherein I focus on the interpretation and decision making. That is what is the crux of statistics, guys. And I would intend to cover the basic statistics part, so that, and I would also tell you how it can be used, how it would be relevant while we look at the data. Because nowadays, when we look at the data, we do not look at from an insight perspective. We look at from just from a collection perspective. So once we collect the data, we start interpreting it, then it would be easy for us to make decisions out of it. Okay. So that is something which I want you to be clear of. Now, when we move ahead, we will focus on the central tendency. Okay. What is the meaning of the word central tendency? Let's get into it. Central tendency basically talks about what is the central behavior of the data. What is the tendency of the data which is at the center of it? When we say center of it, we're basically talking about the average. So which means every time when we interpret the data, we come up with some insights. For example, 30% of the people will leave the organization by 2023. This 30% is what? This 30% is center, which means average. When we say 50% of the products will be defective, what is this 50%? This 50% is average. So every time when we are making any conclusion, whenever you're making any statement also, it is always on basis of central tendency, which means it is on the basis of central behavior of the data, which is the average. Okay. So now we will talk about the most three common measures of central tendency. Does anybody know what are the common measures of central tendency? Wherein I see few of you have basic knowledge about it. Let's
Mean,
see if
median,
you're
mode.
aware of it.
Mean,
Mean,
median, and
median,
mode.
mode.
Mean, median, and mode. Absolutely. So these three are the most common measure of central tendency, which is mean, median, and mode. And through all of them, we would conclude what is my average performance. Okay. So we'll do some practical demonstrations as well, wherein we will learn that how the data interpretation becomes different when it comes from mean to median and to mode. Okay. So let's talk about first mean. Guys, mean is very, very simple, which we've been doing day in, day out. Mean is basically the simple average of a set of a data. Okay, so it is very simple. If you have certain values, for example, you have a data for the number of defects for, let's say, 10 days, you sum it all and divide it by 10, which means number of observation. This is very simple. I'm sure everybody is aware. We've been doing average manually. So this is mean. Okay. So these are the values that I have. If I ask you to calculate the mean, you will definitely be able to do it quickly. You will sum it all and divide it by the number of observation. That is mean. That is basically the traditional method of calculating average. Not only traditional, but we've been doing it now also. Okay. Similarly, for the second example as well. The second method of central tendency is called median. This is also referred as average, but we do not call it as mean. We call it as median. Let's understand the difference between mean and median. Guys, what is median? Median is basically calculated as the positional value when arranged in a ascending or a descending order. So in a given data set, if somebody asks you to calculate the average, you will not use this traditional method of sum it all and divide it by all. What you do is you just take the middle value of the data to predict or to calculate what is the value of it. Let me just show it to you. Give me a minute. So let me just share my screen and once again, so that you can see what I'm typing. So guys, let's say I have a data for the cycle time and I have a data for a few weeks. Week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, I have 9 weeks data and I will just put some random values here. Okay, so if I want to calculate the average cycle time per day using mean on Excel, it is very simple. So we'll use the average formula and this is how my mean is calculated. So my mean is 23.44. So which means I am taking 23 minutes to complete one order, right, in a day. So the cycle time is in minutes. It's a continuous data. Okay. Now, if I want to calculate the median of this particular data, first of all, in order to calculate the median, we have to arrange the data in a ascending or a descending order. Okay. And then only we can calculate the positional value. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly arrange this order, data in ascending order. So guys, if I look at this particular data set, there are kind of 9 values in it. If I want to calculate you to the middle value, what is the middle value here in this particular data set? What is the middle value in this data set?
21.
19.
So guys, let's look at it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the middle value would be the sixth one.
19.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So median would be 19. Okay. Now, this 19 would have been calculated using, this could have been calculated, with the formula also, but I want to make you understand the background around it, that how we have calculated it. With median also, I'm telling you my average cycle time is 19. With the mean also, I'm telling you my average cycle time is 23.4. Now we'll try to understand when to use a mean and when to use a median, because both are saying that this is my average. Same data set, when I'm using mean, I'm saying my average cycle time per day is 23 minutes, but when I'm using median, it is 19 minutes. So friends, there is always one thumb rule which says mean is always impacted by extreme values in the data. Okay, I'll talk about it. And median is not impacted by extreme values. So now in this particular data set, guys, I have a question to all of you. Do you see any deviation here? When I'm saying deviation, do you see the performance week by week? Is it same? Do you find any kind of deviation, or the performance week on week is almost the same? Because someday it took 14 minutes and someday it took 40 minutes. What do you say? Do you find any deviation in the process?
Yes, the variation is too much in the process.
So there is a lot of variation because there is no consistency as such. Okay. Sometime it takes 40 days, sometime it's 30 days. So in this particular data set, I can see there are certain extreme values. When I'm saying extreme values, which means values which are very, very far from each other, right? So in this particular data set, guys, you see the mean is 23.4 and median is 19. I can calculate median using the formula as well. So, and it will get the same 19. So we use median, MEDIN, select the entire range. When you use the formula on Excel, you don't need to arrange in ascending or descending order. It is just from a concept standpoint, you have to do it. Okay. So guys, let me put an extreme value here. Okay. Let's say on week 8, it took me 200 minutes. Okay. Guys, you see, the moment there was an extreme value, the mean is impacted like anything. Okay. Earlier, the mean was 23.4. The moment I put 200, my mean has moved from 23 to 41. However, my median remains the same. So I would like to re-emphasize, mean is always impacted by the extreme values. However, median is not, because median is calculated on the middle value, positional value in the data. Now, there might be a question in your mind that when to go for a mean and when to go for a median, right? When do I decide that in any given data set, I should use a mean and when I should use a median? Okay. So when there are extreme values in the data, always use a median. When there are no extreme values, you should use mean. Okay. So in this data set, we had extreme value. So if you want to share the results or interpret your results with your management with this kind of a data, what would you say? What is your average? Is it 41.2 or 19?
19.
We'll go with median.
We'll go with median, because median is the positional value and which is not impacted by the extreme values. Okay. Now, in the same example, let's say, guys, we may need to log in after 10 minutes because this Zoom is for 40 minutes. So just a heads up, 9 minutes left. So please re-log in on the same bridge. So in this example, we found that there was a extreme value here. Okay, which was cycle time. Cycle time, lesser the better. If I take the same example here, now if I see there is a lot of deviation here, what is the decision that you will be making here? Because earlier we discussed in statistics, we collect the data, we collected the data, we interpret the data, we did that, we calculated mean and median. Now the third thing you do is you take a decision out of it. So in this type of data, guys, when you see on week number 8, it took us 200 minutes to complete per order or any given data set. What would be your decision here? What would you do here? This is a logical question, not a Six Sigma related question. I have not touched upon any of the technical stuff yet. I'm asking you a very simple question. As a business owner, when you see this thing happening, what would be your next step?
We'll check the reason behind
Either
that,
we
that
will,
why it took so much time.
Guys, one by one, I think Lovely was talking about it. Yeah, please go ahead. Sorry, I can't hear you now. Hello?
Reason behind that?
So we would like to know the reason behind it, right? So that we would be able to make, I think there is some network issue at my end. Guys, are you able to hear me?
Yeah,
yes,
clear.
yes, you are audible.
Okay, I hope my voice is not breaking because I got a message that low network connectivity. So what Lovely said, we would try to identify the reason for it. And then only we'll be able to make a decision. Okay. So for that extreme value, in this case, it is bad. I would like to know the reason what happened. Maybe on this particular day, there were some technical issues. It could be because the people were not interested in doing their work. It could be a shortage of staff, and it could be a typo error also. It could be anything. Unless and until I don't ask a question why, I will not be able to get to the next level, right? So since cycle time was an example where the lesser the better was a case, what if I compare this with same example, but instead of cycle time, I put here sales in million. Okay. Same data, but now, and you know, sales is the opposite, the higher the better. Now, since you got, we have got an extreme value here, guys. But what do you think? What would you be doing? Will you be still asking a question, or will you be least bothered because 200 million sale in a week is something which is amazing? So in this case, what would be your strategy? And in this case, what would be your strategy? What do you think?
In case of sales, we will still try to find out the reason for this special number, and we should try to replicate that reason so that it can be repeated over a period of time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what about the first example, Vineet, in the cycle time, or maybe anybody else can also answer here also. So here he's saying, here he's saying, I'm just repeating, Vineet, what you said. Here he's saying, in this particular week, something special has happened. So some best practices can be implemented in other areas, and that's how we can increase the sales. But here, something bad has happened. What would you do here?
So we should
Here
find
we'll
out
the reason.
We should find out the reason and probably see what wrong has happened, and we'll stay away from it. Okay. So guys, always remember,
Exactly, yes.
always remember, in any given data set, even if it is good for the business or bad for the business, every time there are extreme values, and I'm focusing on the extreme values. Whenever there is an extreme value, we should always be asking a question why. So there is a thumb rule. If the variance is bad, which was in the first case, we will kill it so that it doesn't come again. We'll ask the question and solve it. If the variance is good, which is in the second case, pardon my spelling, if the variance is good, we'll try to recreate. So if you understand this terminology or this methodology, you would always analyze the data in such a way that even though if it's an extreme value, what has happened? So if the variance is bad, we will kill it. If the variance is good, we'll try to recreate it. Recreate it means trying to replicate it and see what best practices we can implement it from it. So that's why in this data set, we found we will take median. Okay. Let me ask you a question and then you can ask me questions. I think you can ask me a question once the bridge reopens because we'll be relogging in. Guys, let's say there is an organization wherein we have the data for salaries from executive level, from a beginner level till the CEO of the organization. We have the salaries available. In that particular case, if I want to take out the average, will I be considering mean to calculate the average or median?
It must be median.
What about others? What others think? If I want to take out the salary average, will I consider mean or median?
Median.
Yeah, it will be medium.
Because I want
It's
to
a
make
median because
if I want to make a conclusion that how much average salary I pay to every employee. And in my organization, there is a salary range from, let's say, at a beginner level till at a higher level. So you all are saying we'll take a median.
yes.
And why do you think so?
So because the higher salary is not getting paid to so many number of people, because we have our executive level strength is more than the leadership, than the CEO. CEO is just one. That person might be getting like 20 or 50 times salary, more salary from any executive. So that's why we should take the median, not mean.
So which means there are certain extreme values in this particular data set, and
Yes.
good point raised by you that in the beginner level, the population, the number of sample size would be very high, and due to which
Yes.
it will compensate, right? And that's why we'll be able to have median. So guys, I would so that nobody's question get unanswered while I speak. So there's only 1 minute left for this meeting to get over. I would request you to please re-log in, and then we will take it up, right? So I'm just closing it so that we can reconnect.